live, and maybe we'll try that next time we do a session together. I already hit record, so this session will be recorded. And if you would go to the chat and open up the chat so we can use that as well. And you'll notice that I posted the link to today's agenda. It's bit.ly Rocky Boy PD. So you want to go ahead and open up another window and go to that agenda now. Looks like most everybody's here, so that's good. I am going to go ahead and share my screen to that window.
Josh, this is Rachel. I can't use the chat function for some reason.
Yeah, it's not showing up.
Did y'all say naughty words and get banned?
Yep.
No, mine's not showing up either.
Definitely.
Are you using the...
I think you have to enable the chat now.
Yeah, it says it's only
turn it on.
available for team members.
That's weird. Okay, well,
Teams.
we can do without the chat.
I've had that problem too. If you're not a member of the team, you can't access the chat.
Okay, well, we'll do without the chat then. Let me go ahead and still share my screen to the agenda, and then you can type it in on your own window. There we go. Can everybody see my screen?
You're gonna have to make that a lot bigger.
I definitely will. As long as you can see it. This is the agenda that I want everybody to come to. It's the PD agenda that we always use. And I'm going to go up here just like we would do for our students. We want to optimize the screen sharing. So I'm going to go up to Zoom and go to Fit. And you should have it really zoomed in now, right?
What's the link?
The link is, I'm going to type it nice and big.
Okay.
bit.ly/Rocky Boy PD, all lowercase, all one word. So if you will type that into a browser so you can join me on this screen. I'll give everybody a second to get there. Remember, it is case sensitive. And as long as you keep it all lowercase, it should be fine. There we go. Here comes people popping up. Okay. Got a lot of people on here. Oh, right. 14 people. That's great. Everybody's connecting. Now, you should be able to navigate this document just like any Word document. And based on the tech survey, this is something I'm really excited about. It showed that there's a lot of familiarity with Microsoft Word, not only for the faculty, you, the teachers, but also the students. And so that's why I really like using Microsoft Word to really deliver lessons as like my main form of delivering lessons in professional development. And when we do it the way that I do it here with all the built-in links that you have down here at the bottom, it's called a hyperdoc because it has hyperlinks in it. So it's a Word doc with hyperlinks. Hyperdoc. It's a fun word to say. Go ahead and go down to the click here on the agenda, that first one, and you're going to right-click on your computer and go down to the open link. At least that's how it is for me. It might look different for you. Open that link so you can go to our sign-in form, put in today's date, Much like you would do with your students, if you were going to have like a live class online, you might want to have them do a sign-in sheet at the beginning and at the end. And if they're taking ownership of it, it's their responsibility to sign in and sign out. It's good for them. Less work on you, hopefully. Shows that they were there the whole time. So if you will enter all your information here. And today's date is the 13th. Friday the 13th in the year 2020. What could possibly go wrong today? Nothing.
Can you give me a minute? Because I can't click on this.
Okay. Did you right click on it?
Oh, damn.
Try to right click and go down to open link. It might look different on your side because you don't have sharing access in it, but
Mine won't let me click on there either.
let's see what it looks like.
On. Mine just wants to go to copy.
Someone's getting feedback. Is anyone else having trouble clicking in?
I think if you go to the open in, like you have, once you open the document, you have to click on open in desktop, and then it's right above on the top, and then after you click on that, it'll open up to the sign-in sheet. I don't know if that's helpful.
Or hold the control button down. Hold the control button down and then hover over it and it'll open. Click on it. Control click.
Gosh darn it.
Yeah, I'm using this from a desktop, so it might look different depending on what device you're using. And I'm using a Mac.
Well, what? If we can't get it, do we just?
I'd say if you can't get it, if you could just click on and try and highlight the word agenda.
What date?
And go up to the comments button in the top corner. Click on that and add a new comment. And then just put your name in so we can just keep track. You can see what I'm doing up here in the top corner.
I have been keeping track of who's online anyways too, so if it doesn't work for them, I know who was in the
Well,
meeting.
perfect then. Then I'm going to go ahead and move on. There are really three essential questions I wanted to address today as we talk about Microsoft Forms and how to use that in conjunction with our instructional framework. I want to talk about how do I optimize screen sharing, what features do my students need to know, and how do I keep all this organized? Those are the questions that are in my mind anyway, whenever I'm preparing for like an online lesson especially, or even like a presentation. And you heard some comments at the beginning like, hey, can you make it bigger? Can you zoom in? And I think that's something we always have to keep in mind with our students is we want to make sure to maximize all the screen space that we have on our computer so they can see everything. And usually I have this set right now to just share one thing, but like if I were to share my entire screen, it would look something like this. You can see my whole desktop. You can see all the clutter I have on my desktop. And then I could switch over to the screen. You could see that too. But what I want to avoid is presenting like in this format right now. I want to full screen everything, which for me on a Mac, I have to click the green button up here at the top. And always remember to go up to the view in my Word document. And by default, it's at 100%, but I always want to go to fit into the window so it zooms in and it's easier for my students to read. Likewise, even something like the desktop background is something now I have to be concerned with, because if I have a background that's like way too busy with too many colors and textures, it can distract from the student. And we're already dealing with a whole bunch of challenges with distractions with our students. We really want to eliminate any possible distractions from them. So I have a pretty nice minimalist background here with all the files that I'm going to want to share with them for my lesson over here in the corner. And then I will clean that out after I'm done with my lesson today. So those are a couple of things to keep in mind. Now, as far as like features that your student needs to know, I want to always think about, okay, what do I need to reiterate to them so they learn how to use the apps that I'm using with them very well. And so like that's why it's a good reminder to say, okay, I tried to remind you here, go and right click on the link and go to open. That's how I'm used to doing it. Still had some trouble with that, but you can always also teach them how to leave a comment, which I think is important to know how to do in case you have a question, or if they have a question, they can always leave a comment on your document if you're teaching in this manner. So if you would, show me that you know how to do that. Just click on the word agenda until it's highlighted like I'm doing here and go to new comment. You see when you hover above it or right click on it, you have that menu come up in Word and you can go up to new comment. Keep in mind, I'm using Word only from the browser function. You might have Word downloaded on your computer, but I'm just using it from the browser. I really like that I can use it. Oh, see, there we go. Good morning. Perfect. Someone's getting it. Oh, perfect. Great job, Stafford. Aloha, I say hola. And to Rachel, I'll say holla. Y'all are getting it. Perfect. All good things to practice with students. And so if you're going down a hyperdoc like this, they can always leave comments or questions for you without interrupting the whole class. And you can always go back and review them. Okay, let's look at our parking lot comments here and see what we need to address throughout the lesson. Now, how do you keep all this organized? That was a good question that was submitted to me earlier. It was like, how do you keep things like forms organized? And when I researched it and went onto the message boards on Microsoft, they don't have that quite figured out yet. So you have to kind of tailor it for yourself. And we're going to talk about that today. So let's jump into Microsoft Forms, our main thing that we're going to discuss. But first, of course, because my background is in literacy and literature, I wanted to share a reading with you. This is a short excerpt from The Art of Learning, and it made me think about what we're doing right now as far as learning how to best teach in an online environment. Specifically, you can go, if you wanted to download it or look at it yourself, it's at this excerpt over here under the links section on our agenda. It's the top one. You don't have to, but I put it up there for you. It's just page 54 and 55. The Art of Learning is a book by Josh Whiteskin. He was the inspiration for that movie about chess. Was it Searching for Bobby Fischer? And then he also became a world champion jiu-jitsu martial artist. And it's a great book. But one of the things that really struck to me, like out of this book that stood with me for a long time, was this little parable he has. I'm going to try and zoom in on it. And it made me think about what we do here. Here we go. So right here, this top of the paragraph on page 55, the first paragraph, and he's talking about the soft zone versus the hard zone. And he shares this parable, this Indian parable that has been quite instructive in his life. And it goes like this. A man wants to walk across the land, but the earth is covered with thorns. He has two options. One is to pave his road, to tame all of nature into compliance. The other is to make sandals. And I feel like that's kind of where we're at. And it made me think about our instructional framework in a way of, here's all this forest land, and we want to keep our students safe and guide them through this forest that is online learning. But first we have to set up a base camp. And so I think about this diagram here as our instructional framework in a way. Let me zoom in. So I want to take our base camp and put it in the forest strategically. And this is our safe zone. And so for us, our base camp today is our online agenda. That link that we went to that we're all on right now. This is where all of our learning starts for today's PD or for your students, today's lesson. So if ever they get lost, we can always click back and go back to the agenda. This is our base camp that we're setting up in the forest. So hopefully you won't get lost. And as I do more PD with you, if I'm fortunate enough to keep doing PD with you, I'll keep building on to this document, just as I've done in previous years. Here's our previous PD. And you can see here's a bunch of resources with some suggestions. There's podcast resources. There's podcasts specific to social studies, history, and science, and some nonfiction resources and other websites that I found could be helpful for us to use in instruction. I just want to put them in one base where we can all come back and look at them on our own time. So with that, at our base camp, we're going to go to our and how do you organize your forms? I don't know how your browser works. I use the Google Chrome browser, and one of the best features of it is creating folders in the browser bar. So you can see my browser bar here at the top. I wish I could zoom in on it more, but if I right-click in the bookmarks bar here in the browser window at the top, I can go down to add a folder. And so I can create something like, I'll do Rocky Boy PD folder. And now I can just take this document right here and I can bookmark it and I can put it in the Rocky Boy PD folder. And that's one way to keep organized. So I can always just click on that folder and it shows me where my home base is. And this would be great for students to learn how to do if you wanted to keep all the learning in one growing document like we're doing here today. They could always go up to that and click and see like, okay, this is where my class is. And I see that my teacher added on a new lesson to this one big hyperdoc. Makes it really easy. And you can even create it in a, adjust the share settings so they don't even have to sign in every time if they needed to look at it from their phone to get a heads up of what the learning is for the day, or they can look at it on their tablet or whatever device is available to them. And for us, we are going to look at forms. So I'm going to go to my forms folder. And I already have it bookmarked under my MCLP folder, but I'm going to put it bookmarked under my Rocky Boy folder too. There we go. Boom. So now I have my home base or my base camp, which is our PD page, this one. And then I have my forms that I can just click and go straight to this window. And you'll notice there's a lot going on here. And I wish there was a way to create folders within this group. But like I said, according to the Microsoft forums online, they haven't created that feature yet. The best thing we can do to keep organized is learn how to use the search and to title our documents accordingly. You might even put like a hashtag for your class. So if I have a bunch of, of forms that I'm using for a particular lesson or particular class period, I might put that in the title so it's easier to search here. So you would search for bio research unit if there's a form you're using for like a biology research project or such. Now I have made a bunch of templates because I based them off of different literacy strategies or graphic organizers that I frequently use. And that way I can more easily just go in and create a quick form on the fly with my students during a lesson or as I prepare for a lesson. They're in this template format. You will see them right here under the Forms tab on our Basecamp. I have 15 created. 16 is not linked, and that's on purpose. But what you should be able to do is click on one of these, for instance, the sign-in sheet, and be able to open that up. And you have access to my template. And you see up here at the top, I'm going to zoom in. Another feature is important to learn, especially when you're sharing your screen with a student, is how do you properly zoom in? On my computer, I have to press Command and the plus sign. I think you should be able to go find the options and you see where the zoom function is. Like I have over here. Again, I'm using Google Chrome on a Mac, so it might be like Control plus sign if you're using a PC. And that way students can see everything on your screen and more easily read it. But you have the option up here to duplicate this template so then you save a copy too into your Microsoft 365 account. Zoom back out. But for every one of these are all templates, so feel free to copy them or ask questions about one in specific, like how would I use this in class? I'm going to go over a couple that I really like. That's the sign-in sheet. Now, another one for Microsoft Forms, of course, is just like the usual way to do it, which would be creating a template or creating a form that is a basic multiple choice question template. You have a question that you would insert in here, and then you have 4 options or 3 options, especially if they're on an IEP. One of the, I think, ways to adjust is to put just 3 option choices down. Now this one I call the unusual because it goes a little bit beyond just multiple choice. I ask students to explain their answer choice, and there might be more than one answer choice. So I switch the options here so they can choose different option choices, but then they have to write an elaborate explanation as to why that is the best answer choice to whatever question I'm putting in this template. And then, of course, the SCR is the short constructive response. Personally, for me, these are my favorite. I love short constructive responses. And of course, I have like put their name as like the first requirement for every one of these forms. So I tried to. If I missed one, forgive me, I'll go back and fix that. But I like short constructive responses. It really tells me what they understand when I hear in their own words. And I have some guidelines here at the top. Sorry, my cat's doing something at my legs. The sequence and ranking function in Microsoft Forms is probably one of my favorites. If you haven't seen that yet, definitely check it out. There's like so many uses to it. So you want to arrange the following in order of what happened first, second, last. And I find this fascinating. So let's look at something like this. So sequence template, I made a copy of it. And let's see if we're going to just call this, and you may have seen it in my little preview video I sent last week, the little 5-minute video. So we'll call it Cinderella. And gonna make it a plot diagram. And you're just going to put them in order, like what happened first, second, and last in the Cinderella story. So we know that she was she lived with her evil stepmother. And then she met her fairy godmother. I think godmother's like one word. There we go. Met her fairy godmother. And then she met the prince. And then she lost her shoe.
Josh, evil's a strong word. Maybe she was just misunderstood.
She lived with her misunderstood stepmother.
She did.
No way.
Her first husband died traumatically. She had no financial options, so she quickly remarried, losing her, next spouse again. So therapy would definitely have been, on the table. Good point, Tull. Good point.
So she lived in a toxic household.
It's okay for her to be an archetypal evil character.
Hey, you guys are ruining this for me. I just
There we go.
watched the original.
I watched the original Peter Pan on Disney Plus, and there was some like very outdated like stereotypes in that that made me triggered. So, if we're going to modernize it a bit, I guess you can say that she lived in a toxic household that didn't believe in mental health and caring for
That's
mental
pretty
health.
much Disney right there.
So, yeah, that's true. So,
For the last one, she lost her shoe, not her show. But
oh, my bad. Shoe. There we go. Lost her shoe. Or slipper, whatever it was. The glass slipper, right? Now, one thing you have to keep in mind is like when you're creating something like this, you have to put the sequence in the correct order when you create it, and then it'll mix it up for you when you go and actually share it with students. So see, there it is previewed. Everything is moved around, and so then the students would click and drag and put it in the correct order based on what you're presenting. And it could just be something like summarizing a plot or putting it back in the correct order, or maybe the sequence steps in a lab for a science lab, since we're not in person and can't do labs in person, but we can still talk about, well, what's the correct sequence? Do you just jump right into the acid, or do you have to put your acid-proof gloves on?
Do you know if this can be mixed with a regular quiz? Or do you have to have just a sequence form?
No, you can mix them all. And that's what I did in if you watch my 5-minute video, I did just a 5-minute quick video, and it's one form, but it has a variety, like 10 different types of questions on it. It has a mixture of all these on it. I just put them in here in a template format so we can just go through all the different types that we can embed in it. I will say that you do have to keep in mind the difference between new form and new quiz, or forms and quizzes. Quizzes have some limitations on it because it's trying to actually actively give points for a grade. And so for something like what I just showed you, the sequence part, you do have to put it in a correct order. Now, for say something, if you were going to ask students a question where there is not one correct answer and you're just getting their opinion, like in ranking, then you would want to choose form and not quiz. So let's look at ranking. We looked at sequence, and there is a correct order for sequence, but ranking can be very different. We're going to make a duplicate template for ranking. And
So, Josh,
yeah,
if you have a Word document, will this allow you to cut and paste from the Word document?
oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like if I were going to go to, I'll copy this over here, the deep sea. The deep sea. And the size of space. And this article over here about Ruby Bridges. See, I'm just copy and pasting it over there. Saves me time.
Yeah, I just did one last night for personal finance, but I used an old study guide and I had to put it all in the question. Then I typed in my answers, and then I just deleted what I didn't need for the question, but I was creating a quiz.
There we go. We're going to play with this one. So which do you want to study next? I'm going to take the requirement off of this. Messed up my picture. That was an accident, but it's all right. Let me share that. I'm going to go put this on our Basecamp. Scroll down here to the bottom of the page. There you go. You want to click on that. I'm also going to show you how to make it pretty. I'm going to type in some text. Today's quiz question. So I typed in this text and I copied it, or I highlighted it. And I'm going to right click on it and you'll see an option that says link. Click on link. And then now I paste the address to that document in there. And so now it looks a lot nicer. See, I have today's quiz question versus this gobbledygook that I had you click over here. That white space makes a huge difference for students so they don't get too lost. So you can click on that or click on this gobbledygook programmer code URL and it'll take you to the same place, right? So, which would you want to study? Do you want to study Ruby bridges? Oops. The deep sea or the size of space? Do me a favor and put your answer in on that. And let's see what we get as responses. Go down and hit submit when you're done. You don't have to put your name in. You don't have to put your explain your choice in. That was just optional. There we go. I love the live responses. Wow. It's like the deep sea is up there so far. So let's go look at the deep sea. So for the deep sea, I'm going to go look at the, let's see here. Which one do I want to use next? I guess we'll just keep on going in order. I notice, I wonder. No, that's good for infographics.
The deep sea makes me think of Jules Verne and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Makes me think of how much I like land and staying on the beach, not getting in the water whatsoever. But imagine if if I had this prepared ahead of time and I wanted to get it organized for a student for like a lesson plan, I might do I notice, I wonder with the deep sea, and I want them to go to this link here. And so in the form, I would say, I notice, I wonder the deep sea. So review the following website, deep sea, then respond to the form questions. And you might remember I did a activity with sticky notes called I Notice, I Wonder, where you have a student has two sticky notes. They have a sticky note that says I notice, and then they have a sticky note that says I wonder. And so I asked them to look at it like an infographic or watch a video and tell me, what do you notice? What do you wonder about it? And so this is just a different way of doing it since we're online. And I really like how you can tabulate all their answers and really look for the trends on forms, because it gives you that nice, neat spreadsheet. And so I would give that there. So we'll go here. And I will add the link. There we go. So I want you to go right-click on the Deep Sea, open it up, and you might have to do this for students, right? But have them have the quiz open too. So right-click, students would have the quiz open while you navigate them through the Deep Sea. So here's the Deep Sea, and you just tell me, what do you notice, what do you wonder? As we keep going through this website. Now, both of these forms, because I would have to use them during a lesson, I might want to bookmark them and put them in my folder at the top. So you might create a folder for a particular special lesson or class. So this is Rocky Boy PD, but I could easily just rename first period. First period, grade 8, for instance. And then I have quick access to the form I need and the website I need for that lesson, and of course, my Basecamp, right? Oops, I didn't want to click on that though. I want to stay in the Deep Sea. All right. 321 exit ticket is another form I think you're probably familiar with, because if you've ever done PD with me, this is my default for feedback, right? I go in and I want to know what are 3 things you learned, 2 questions you still have, and I try to respond to those questions back at you, and just a comment, like what did you like, what did you dislike? And I think that's important to know from students too, like to get that feedback early. What was really good that I did today that helped you stay engaged or learn? And what is something that made it difficult to learn? Get that feedback from students. Again, nice template for that. JABS is a form for analyzing articles. It's an acronym that stands for judgment, authority, the basis, and to summarize. Although I have seen teachers change that to stance, like what is your stance? Because the judgment is like, what is this passage or what is the article arguing? Or what is the author's judgment about the topic? And who wrote the article? Because you always want to talk about credibility with them now. Like, how do we know that this is coming from a credible source? Who are the writers or the author, the single author, that we know this is credible? And I love doing this even with infographics. And so what evidence is being provided to show that this judgment is credible, or what supports this judgment here at the top? And of course, how do you summarize it all in one sentence? Just the whole thinking, the whole article. I particularly love like using infographics with that. Let's start one real quick. So if we're going to set up a new Basecamp, do a blank document. We're going to JABS. So I'll make a copy of that. There we go. And I've been picking up a lot of really great infographics lately and just images in general. Let me see, what's a good one? What's a good one? Like, I thought that this would be really fun to talk with kids. Let me change my view so everyone can see again. There you go. So given just this, and then I could set this up here. Let's see, and this is called Youth 2020. Okay, so I'll call it the Youth Vote. And I'd ask students, jab this out. Make sure that this is something credible. There we go. And I would tell them that they can use any resource they have. So of course that would require them to Google it, or you might have to show them what are the steps that we would go through to see if this is credible. Let's look at everything on here. What do we see? What is the graphic about? What is it telling us? What is it not telling us? Who is this data coming from? And it's down here at the bottom. And so we could Google that to help us fill out our jabs on it to see if this is credible information. Now, how do you get these hyperdocs to students? So I don't think I touched on that enough. You've seen the share button, and you can choose like the restrictions on it, which you might have to use. You can even allow them to type and edit on the document themselves. I like just anyone with the link because it just helps people get in there a little bit faster. And you want to go to copy link. Now, I like to just provide my students with that copied link. And if you have like the chat room where you're able to use it with your students while they're live with you on Teams, I would just drop it in the chat. Notice that I use bit links, and that is also a free tool that I find really helpful and makes it a lot easier for students to connect if you just go start a Bitly account, and then I can go to create and take that long URL, and then I can customize it into something that will be easier for them to type in their browser window. So we'll do Youth Vote 2020, since that's what that's about. See if that one's okay. That custom link's taken. I'll do _Flores. There we go. Good. That one's not taken. And so I can go back to my document and say, okay, class. There's the Bitly link. Type it in your browser. Everybody get on here. This is our base camp. I want everyone to stay on this page for the lesson today. Bookmark it if you need to. I'm going to bookmark it. And this is where we're going to be working from. Here's the graphic. Now you can access it. You don't just have to rely on me, your teacher's screen. You can zoom in on it. But most importantly, you can go to the links I want you to go to. So you can say, go and Google all this stuff on your own, or you can give them very specific articles about, what is this, Tufts University? And then discuss, like, is this a credible university? Is this data credible? What does this mean? Bitly and forms. ESP is an inferencing strategy, which is mainly for literature. So I'll just leave that there for the English teachers if they want to look at it. It's a 3-step process to look at the events, setting, and people in the story to inference information or to foreshadow information that's going to happen later. 5 W's and how is a very basic summarization strategy. It's one I recommend starting with if you're working with students on how to summarize. And if you look at our STAR data and how it's aligned to the standards, summarization and inferencing are two very important skills to practice on. Because I think it's in the standards, it's called main idea and concepts that we need to focus on, like how do we address the main idea and concepts, and just focusing on the who, what, where, when, why, and how of an article is important. You're not going to answer to H, but you should try. And I have 2 articles over here that I think are really great. The Ruby Bridges article, it's a Ruby Bridges interview. If you don't know who that is, it is the little girl here, very famous painting that has become popular again because of this image that you see all over the internet. And talk about your students, like if you're a history teacher or an art teacher, like what is the significance of this? What is happening? What's the historical context behind this image? Why is it so important? But I like this article. This is an article I would use to practice the 5 W's how. Setting this in there. And you can easily pick out the information. It's a op-ed, or not. It's not an op-ed. That's why like all the information is in there. Like who is this about? Why is it important? Where is this taking place? It's a good article to practice on. There we go. You can model it for them with some good direct instruction by reading it out loud and helping fill out like the who and the what. That would be the you do. and then move down the we do process and then filling out the next two W's, the where and the when as a class, and then of course leaving them to put an answer into why, as in why is this important, or how, as in how does this impact us, on their own. Just give their opinions based on reading this article together in class. It's a pretty big deal, right? Just as the more advanced, I think it's the more advanced. I have fun with it, but it's one of my favorite more advanced strategies for summarization. It is simply summarizing your reading in one sentence using only 20 words. It can't be 21 words. It can't be 19 words. It's only 20 words. You've seen me use that before in training, but I just put it in a template here too. Show and tell. Now, this is my absolute favorite feature besides like the ranking feature on Google Forms, or I'm sorry, Microsoft Forms, because you allow students to upload files, and whether that's a Word file or a picture or an audio or a video file, and you have up to a size limit of up to a gig to do that. I thought this is great for math teachers and art teachers. Those are the two teachers or subject areas that came to mind for me, where students could take a picture or record something, maybe record a reading out loud of something, or take a picture of something they painted or molded, and you have up to a gig to upload that picture to you. And I would always leave questions like, talk to me about this, like, what is this art piece? What do I need to know about it? Or take a picture of your paper and show me your work that you did for this math problem. I want to see the work and upload that. The limitation on this, though, is they do have to be part of the organization. I can't just open it up so anyone with the link can respond like I do with everything else. They have to know their username and password to get in here.
Can you do video on that too, or no?
You can. Let me see. Zoom in on here. Here's everything you can do on it.
Oh, gig.
Single file size limit,
Oh.
but you can actually make it multiple files. So you could do like a draft 1, draft 2, draft 3. The limit's 1 gig. You can see you could do a Word file, Excel file, PowerPoint, but more importantly, you can do a PDF or an image, a JPEG or a PNF image that they take with their phone, a video, or an audio file.
Can they update this? Like, say if they send something in and they want to add in a revision or something like that, can they go back in and do that? Or once you submit it, it's submitted and that's it?
That's a good question. I don't know. I haven't experimented with it that far. Let's see here. We will just do it right now. All right, I'm going to switch this. I'll just upload just a random picture. This is another great infographic. These are the states that voted for Kanye West in 2020. So say I'm going to upload that because I want my teacher to know that these are the states, and I can explain to him why that's important. Let me hit submit. Okay. Nope, looks like it could just submit another response. I don't see the option to update it.
Really?
Okay.
So how would you do that in audio? I'm a language teacher and I'd like to test them and have them send in an audio file.
Well, obviously they would need like an audio recorder app. Like I have one built into my phone. So they would need to record and be able to know how to download it or upload it to their computer in order to send it to this form, if you set that up for them.
Would you what kind of audio program would you suggest?
I would stick with whatever is the default on your phone if you know how to get it off. But that's just because it's easier for me. Like I think it's easiest if you have an iPhone. surely there's an audio recorder app on the computer. Although the one I use it's an expensive one. You have to pay for it. So, but if we wanted to talk more about that, I know that when I looked at the tech survey, there was some interest in the use of podcasts and other audio platforms. And so we can delve more into that maybe at the next PD, because I do love podcasting. Let's see if this is.
I think on some phones, it's like the memo, because that's what I use. I use voice memo. And I've been experimenting with that by providing teachers with some feedback. So a couple of them have received it, and it's just off the phone. I did try with the computer. It ran into some problems, but the phone kind of links up because you can send it either through email. I think Teams, that's about it. I don't know about forms or anything. Like, I don't know how to do that.
See, I have the voice recorder on my phone. It's an Android phone because I don't have a fancy iPhone, and it just sends it to my Google Drive, and I just uploaded it from my phone to my Google account. So I should be able just to open it up and download it and then re-upload it to that Google form once it's finished uploading from my phone. There it is. Here's an audio file. I'm not going to play it because who knows what it was talking about. And then I can download it. It's an M4A file. Oops. There it is. And it's uploading there. Audio file icon, and then I just hit submit. So I would think it's that easy with an iPhone as well. But we can play more with that in another PD too. I do love this feature. I think it's really, there's a lot you could do with it. Okay. Anticipation guide, it's something that I've used before. It's something that is time consuming because it's an anticipation guide. When it's done properly, it is something you do at the beginning of your lesson and at the end of your lesson. And they're usually true, false, just to get a sense of where your student stands on a subject matter or different subject matters. And so that's why I have it set up where the form is in two parts. This part where they have to type in their name and then where they indicate that this is the first time or the second time submitting a response. And so if it's the first time, they would click that first icon, then go to next, and then they have the statements for your anticipation guide. And the idea is that you kind of see their sense of where their understanding is of the topic at the beginning of the lesson, and then you check it again at the end to see if their understanding has grown or changed. It could be opinions, and you can see if their opinion has changed after further researching a topic, or has their sense of understanding grown since after researching a topic in class with a lesson. So that's the anticipation guide set up there. And probably the most important, the You're a Superstar. I'm going to create another like fake lesson on this one. Here we go. Go ahead and bookmark it. And we're going to call this the How you doing? How you doing lesson. And one of the ways we get students and we build like that trust and build relationships with them is to teach them something about themselves as well as something academic. So this is what this lesson's all about. I'm going to go in here, and the first part of this lesson is I'm going to ask them to do the Myers-Briggs test. This will help them reflect. There we go. Copy that link. And then I'll go to my You're a Superstar template. And it's good just to check in with them every once in a while and just ask, how you doing? Everything all right? There we go. Good way to get some insight on like what's going on in their home life. Make sure their family's staying safe with, you know, pandemic situation going on. And then you can also, you know, if there's something that they are in need of, you can talk to a counselor to maybe get some further guidance on how to deal with that. But it is, I know that it was a big deal for even like my son when we went into the pandemic, like shutdown mode, and he was going a little stir crazy, just to have some time with his teacher. He got like, the teacher did like 10-minute check-ins with all our students. And he just, that 10 minutes meant a lot to him as a 6-year-old, to just get a little bit of time with the teacher, to just talk it out with someone who wasn't his parent. There we go. And I will send that. Okay, I'm going to put that down here at the bottom again, so if everybody can follow me and go click on it. How you doing? All right, if you'll click that link, open this up, and take that test. And I called it the superstar because if you look on the form, it just has a star rating. And so there's 2 ways to kind of gauge where your students are. Maybe they don't want to tell you the details, but they're still not doing great. They can just put 1 star and you can just be aware, oh, okay, morale is low or something's up. They don't want to talk about it. I can respect that, but it's good for me to know that they're down right now. Or they're just doing just fine. Like online classes are like the best thing to ever happen to them. And you can be like, okay, well, that student's doing okay. Notice that I kept it anonymous too. Because sometimes they're more comfortable speaking anonymously about matters of the heart, you could say. There you go. Now, I do the personality test because I just like these kinds of things. I think it's really good as a self-reflective practice. And these are the different type of personality types that this test is based on. We have our 4 type of levels of analysts, our 4 levels of diplomats, our 4 levels of sentinels, our 4 levels of explorers. And I think it's interesting to see like what category my students fit into or what categories my colleagues fit into in this. I'll let you know that every time I take this test, I am an ISFJ, which makes sense because as a former English teacher, I'm a feeler, essentially. You know how emotional English teachers are, am I right? We're empathetic. Nothing wrong with that. But it just talks about that and gives you like an in-depth, and you can always reflect on, kind of like when I did the house test with y'all in the last PD, just a good reflection. Okay. Make sure I put editing functions. Link in view, allow editing, apply. This is one that's good to edit. Okay. Now, the other cool feature about Microsoft Forms is the collaborative feature. And this is one I'm going to ask everyone to participate on too. We can go in and we can collaborate on a lesson. And I thought, what a great way for for grade level teams or subject area teams to get together and create a common formative assessment to give to their students, and then come back and compare that data. It's like we all asked our students this same question. Here's what they all answered, so we can kind of see where we are. Now, there we go. You do have to, as you can see, this limitation right here in the corner. Oops, there it goes. Much like when you're uploading files in that one form, you do have to be logged in to participate in this. So you have to know your password, your login information. So if you will, on the collaborative one, I'm going to put the link in for that. I'm going to ask that you open it up and let us try to collaborate on a quiz. Once you log on, I want you to click on Add New, pick a question of your choice, and just practice putting it on. You can ask questions about our PD today. You can mimic a question you would ask in class so we can see the type of high-level questions you're challenging Rocky Boy students with. Note that when you pop it up, there's only these 4 choices, but you gotta go to the drop-down arrow to get some of the other fancy options like the Likert or the ranking or the file upload. Net Promoter Score, I haven't worked with. It's just it's a number scoring one. I didn't create any templates for that. Mostly because I like the star ranking most. Yeah, the rating. The rating one has the stars, and I just find that more graphically appealing. Let me check my notes, see what I might have forgot. Hit all the important points. Okay. Look at this show off. What type of measurement is based on the following? The race was 5,000 m long. Okay. Oh, this is a good question. I like that. Which template would you most likely use? Depends on the situation, right? But I like the ranking one. That's one of my favorites. Ranking and sequence. But I'm a real nerd for like plot diagrams too, so. Oof, we are running late. let me get to just touch on a couple fine points here, and then I will let you go to send me questions personally. I hope you'll leave me questions and feedback, and then I can get back to you on those too. So one quick tip, back at our Basecamp, I have other links here. We have the size of space and the deep sea. The size of space is a cool one. If you like the deep sea website, check out the size of space. It's also pretty cool. And Spot the Troll is a really fun other quiz, which I think is also an important life lesson to check out with students. But I have this tip sheet, the tips and the syllabus, and these are both hyperdocs that I got from a friend who I attended her online presentation last week with the OKCTE, Oklahoma Council Teachers of Education. And she shared this document, which I thought was really cool, with some tips on teaching online. And the thing I liked most about it was her example about delivering clear messages. And so her suggestion was consider breaking your prompt into bullet points for students, so it's a little bit more easy to digest, especially if you're presenting your lessons in a hyperdoc format. So in this example she took here, you have this short paragraph, but look at how much nicer it is to read when she broke it up into bullet points. I really like that as a tip, and so I thought, ooh, I just want to share that. She has other examples down here too, and so I'm just going to leave that with you. And the other thing is I wanted to retouch upon is our online learning framework. And so when you think about these forms, you can use them all in like a 10-question quiz, all these different templates, or you can use one of them individually. And it's just a good way to break up the 90-minute or 60-minute classes, whichever one. I think we're in 60 minutes, so we need to adjust this, right? So like every 15 minutes, do a quick check-in with the student where you have your bell ringer and housekeeping like we did today when I established, okay, here's our objectives, here's our agenda, make sure to sign in, and this is our Basecamp, this page right here. That all would fall into this part of our framework. And then I might even include like a bell ringer where you have to go in and answer a question. And then we move into our lesson, and I might insert a different form for that. We'll do a vocabulary study where I'll do some instruction, and then at the end of that 15 minutes or 10 minutes, however long it takes, insert another form and do a completely different form at the minute block, and then end with a completely different exit ticket at the end of the next 15-minute block. So we got 15. Might make more sense to put in like this: 30, 45, 60 minutes, right? I think that it would be too much to say, okay, I'm going to do a lot of talking and direct instruction for 45 minutes, and then at the end give them like a 10-question form quiz. That might be overkill on them. I like breaking it up so they just pop up, stay awake, especially for these online sessions. But you might experiment and see what works best for you, of course. Okay? Now, please, if you can get it to work now, go to the top of our form and right-click on the feedback, click open link, and please leave me feedback today, just as usual. You're going to go down to the drop-down menu, and we are EPA with forms, which is engagement, participation, and assessment with forms for November the 13th, Friday the 13th. Click next. And of course, just like before, tell me 3 things, 2 questions, and 1 general comment. It's the same as Microsoft Forms. This is just Google Forms, their version. Okay? There we go. There we go. Okay. Now, I have about 4 minutes before I have to run, take over daddy duties, so mommy can go get on her call. Thank you for meeting this way, and I hope we get to meet again. Next time, I also want to try the live setting. in Google Teams or Microsoft Teams. Lots of different features I wanted to experiment with here. But I hope you had a good time. Hope you picked up something from this. And it is recorded, so if you need to rewatch or if there's something we need to retouch upon and review in our next session together, like I said, I would love to do a podcast session, but if there's something that comes up that is more pressing, then we can organize PD for that. And until next time, take care of yourself, take care of your students, and take care of each other. Okay?
Thank you, Josh. You take care
Thank
too.
you. You too.
Thank you.
I'll figure out where this recording's going. I assume it's going to go to stream, but I'll figure it out and share it with you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Catch y'all later.
Have a good one. Stay safe.
You too. Oh, sorry, Christine. I just saw that your question there. When I shared screen, all my chat features like closed out. Sorry about that. And split screening is depends on what you have. Like for usually on a PC, you just have to click a browser window and drag it to the side, and it'll usually set itself. On a Mac, I have to go up here and hold down the button, and it shows me those options to split screen, which I really prefer. But, okay. All right. Baby needs me. I'll talk to y'all later.